You're in Melbourne. You've been living through this entire time. What do you make of the roadmap to recovery?
Well, let's just start. It's no roadmap to recovery. It's just a plan for more restrictions. I think it's devastating for Victorians. I think it's devastating for the economy nationally, given Victoria's 25% of the national economy. In the last financial year, we were 40% of Australia's growth. So this is a pain that everyone across the country will feel. Certainly it's a pain taxpayers will feel, because they will be propping up Victoria for a long time to go. You went through all of those dates there. Let me just underscore for people at home. I know you said it, but I want to make it absolutely clear. The curfews stay, the lockdowns stay, the prohibitions against business stay, the restrictions in travel, everything stays the same unless Victoria can get down to no more than 5 cases a day, per day, over 14 days. Do we even then move into other stages, which are fairly draconian still? And it's only when we get to the point that there are no cases any day in Victoria do we see some sort of normal life and some level of restaurants opening, limited services, hairdressers, for example, but not beauticians and other things. So I have to say, this was an announcement today that says to Victorians, you are basically in lockdown until the end of the year. This is a statement from the Premier that should have been made to the Parliament. This week we saw bills ran through the Parliament that gave him basically a blank cheque for a state of emergency, because he clearly knew that these restrictions would have sent Victoria and the business leaders of Victoria into absolute meltdown. So he's got his requirements, he's got his state of emergency. Now he gives us his so-called roadmap. It's a roadmap to nowhere. It's a plan, as I said, for more restrictions. There was all of these commitments and questions made. What are you doing for business? Well, I'll come back to you on that. What's your answer in terms of release of the modelling? I'll come back to you on that. Are these the toughest restrictions in the world? Fudging answers from the bureaucrats. Well, they are. And they are the longest, toughest restrictions the world has seen. The world, not just Australia. I just think it's extraordinary. I think there's going to be a huge reaction about this. No consultation. He's had discussions, but discussions are not consultation. We heard today from Ben Morton, Assistant to the Prime Minister, Assistant Minister to the Prime Minister. There's been no consultation with the federal government. The Premier there, in response to a question, admitted that he'd called the PM just to tell him what was in the plan today. But again, no proper interaction in terms of strategy with what the Commonwealth's doing. I've sat in government and I have done the work on really complex issues. I get the sense, honestly get the sense, that this bloke doesn't know where to go next, that this is a plan to keep Victoria in a state of crisis until they can manage their way out of this. And I think possibly the political tactic of hoping that by Christmas we'll all have forgotten how we got into this mess, which of course is contact tracing failures, hotel quarantine. Some really good questions actually there in that press conference from Samaya, and I think she's at the Age, really pushing the Premier on the whole issue of contact tracing, because we can see how good it is in New South Wales and not in Victoria.